What's up? What's up? What's up? Rick Paulton, and I am joined today by James Sweet, the director of Jason Rising and the upcoming Jason Rising 2. Neither one of my sorry co-hosts could be here today, so we're going to do this solo. How's it going, James?
Good. How are you doing, man?
I am doing fan-freaking-tastic. I was very excited when I seen the Indiegogo pop up for Jason Rising 2, because Jason Rising was one of my favorite fan films to come out.
Right on. Thank you.
I really, really dig it. It might have been the first fan film I seen, actually. It might be. I'm trying to think. I seen this before I seen Never Hike Alone. I know that.
Oh, wow.
I just loved everything about it. Except there was one thing I had a problem with. We'll talk about that later, I guess. I don't know.
I can guess.
You can guess. Let's see.
Pamela walking around headless.
Loved it. That was my favorite part. Okay, no. The thing is it's the bringing back of Adrienne King, and I love Adrienne King. Don't get me wrong, but this movie has been the bane of my existence because I'm arguing with people all the time. Alice isn't dead. She made it. The thing didn't kill her. Her body is in part 2, but creative licensing and changing things, and there's nothing really wrong with that. And she was great in your movie, and it was awesome seeing her do something again. But just Alice is dead.
We've got a thing for that solves that.
Yeah, no, I've heard that because the thing it goes in, but it doesn't kill her brain. It makes sense, but the thing that didn't make sense is the fact that she's in part 2 and dead.
But we've got a thing for that.
Oh, you have a thing for that. Can we talk about the thing, or is it in the new movie?
Well, we'll see. It's going to be, budget restricting. We'll see. If we can do it, we'll do it.
Right on. So, did you grow up on the West Coast where you're at now, or?
Yeah. Born and raised Portland, Oregon.
Right on. And you grew up. You were always a Friday the 13th fan.
Yeah, you could say that. It started pretty early for me. I think I remember being a little guy, and I didn't see. I mean, I'm old enough to know. I've lived through the 80s and late 70s. But
okay, so we're probably about the same age. I'm 46.
Okay, I'm a little older than that. But
really? Okay, well, you look good. You look younger than me.
Thank you. I remember seeing my mother used to work at a Zenith place. This was a long time ago, and I remember they had those large laser discs back in the day when they first came out. And I remember seeing Friday the 13th on the shelf, and that's the first time I was exposed to the cover and the title. And I didn't know much about it. I was pretty small at that time, and I remember seeing banned in 33 countries or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. That's scary shit. But as I got older, I remember back in the day when you're in middle school and you'd go to outdoor school, and all the kids would wake up in the middle of the night scared to death talking about Jason. I'm like, I got to find out what this Jason thing is.
Yes. So
that's when I started getting into horror movies, and a buddy of mine was into it. So we started, we draw pictures of Jason, and I started watching the films, and I just fell in love. It was just one of the coolest things. I remember we had a each classroom had a Christmas competition to decorate their door.
Mm-hmm.
And so my buddy and I, because we used to sketch art and draw, we did this kind of life-size door-size picture of Jason holding a machete in Santa Claus's head, and it said Merry Christmas. And it didn't go over too well with they enjoyed the art, they appreciated that aspect of it, but as far as like the content, they were like scratching their head, should we call your parents? I mean, are you guys a little off? Or but no, it was all in good fun. But yeah, so it I'd say probably around 6th, 7th grade is when I really started getting into horror. And, back at that time, Nightmare on Elm Street came out as well.
Oh, man.
So that was a big deal. And I just, just started absorbing everything like Evil Dead and all of it.
Nightmare on Elm Street's probably the scariest movie ever to me. Like when I was a kid, I was 5 when it came out, and I seen all these movies like right when they came out. And Jason was never scary to me though. I was really afraid of my own shadow as a kid, but Jason was like kind of like a superhero or something to me. It was a little bit different, and he was never really like nightmare inducing scary for some reason, but Freddy Krueger definitely was.
Well, which Friday the 13th were you exposed to first?
That's, you know what? It's hard for me to remember. It definitely wasn't 2 because I remember the hockey mask first.
Okay.
And it definitely wasn't 1 because I remember watching the first one and just expecting Jason to be there the whole time, and then he wasn't. And I was like, what the hell? So it was either 3, 4, or 5. And I'm thinking either 4 or 5. I'm thinking 4. If I had to bet money, it'd be 4. But I seen all of those relatively close together. But I would think the final chapter was the first. That was my next question for you. When was the first time you remember seeing a Friday the 13th film, and when was it? Where was it?
As far as which one I saw first, I can't remember that.
Yeah.
But I know it was definitely, it could have been the first one. I just don't remember, but I know one of the things, when I was in middle school, I'd come home and I'd watch the final chapter a lot. Like that was one of my things that I did after school. I just put that in on, in the VCR and just watch that thing. And it definitely gave me some nightmares, over time. But, I was exposed to, the earlier ones too, where, the scene when young Jason comes out of the canoe and pulls Alice in, that was terrifying.
Oh yeah,
for that day.
Definitely a very iconic scene for sure. Yeah, definitely for me it was 4 and 5 I seen the most as a kid. And I don't remember which one I seen first. I'm leaning towards 4, but 4 had the absolute scariest Jason in it. Well, maybe Derek Mears later, it's debatable, but Ted White played no games.
Right. Yeah, Ted White there was this old guy down the street. He was bald, and we had woods surrounding where we lived, and he had this gated house, and it was pretty creepy looking, and he had that Ted White body, and he always just, like, bald guy scared the hell out of me every time I saw him. I'm like, I'm not going near that guy's place. But it's just things like that, everything triggered a Friday the 13th memory for me as a kid, with going out in the woods and we had property up in Lake Billy Chinook, and just those environments always triggered that Friday the 13th love.
Right on. Yeah, and you could see in your film that that obviously that the final chapter was a big influence on it, from bringing up Tommy and how his mom died, and that we don't even see that in the film. That's a cut scene that where she dies in the bathtub that was never even released back then. So I thought that was cool that you brought that up.
Yeah, we touched on some of those things that you don't get to see, and the same with the Alice ice pick thing, as it looked more like something she would be able to survive. And she's always campaigned about that as well, that she survived it, and I mean, why wouldn't you want to? We know the whole story now as why they killed off her character, and as a fan, it's just like, why wouldn't you want to bring back the first final girl? Why wouldn't you want to figure that out and put somebody that iconic in your film and figure a way to make that character come to life again? And so, and
again, I was just giving you a little shit about it in the beginning, but it's totally cool. Like, if you go to, like, I think the Friday the 13th continuity makes the most sense out of any of these franchises. A lot of people say it doesn't, but you go to Halloween and Laurie Strode has 3 different kids in 3 different timelines, and what the hell? Nothing makes sense. They will change stuff at the drop of a dime, and like changed everything, you know? So no, that's totally cool. And it was awesome to get her to be in the film. That was amazing. To have her come back and kill Pam again.
Yeah. No, Adrian's great. I love her to death.
Yeah, I've met her a couple times. Yeah, she's awesome. She's definitely my favorite final girl for sure. Besides your film, what was your favorite fan film to come out?
I mean, the time that I decided that I was going to do Jason Rising was right. It was about a day after Never Hike Alone came out. So it was right at that time, and I'm like, I better, kind of see what maybe some of these other fan films are doing, that either we can do better or see what the bar is.
Yes.
And Never Hike Alone had just come out, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty high level stuff,
Absolutely.
And at the time I started watching a little bit more and learning more about Vinny and who he was, and again, during the time that I decided to do it, very similar to the original franchise, I had a title, but I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no story, none of that. And there was a lot of things that I didn't know about as far as what I was doing. I had to learn some of these new costume groups again, hockey mask makers, the works. I was starting from ground zero, even as a fan. So I got in touch with Vinny and just light conversation, said, hey, man, I like what you did. We're making our own. And, he reached out back and said, hey, wish you the best, good luck with it. And so that was cool. It was just a light conversation that, he was able to connect with me. And later down the road, when we actually did a teaser, we'd touch base off and on during that time. And, he finally saw the teaser because he asked. It was funny because the day that I was driving back from the lake that we shot our first teaser, he's like, how's it going? What's going on? You got some footage yet? I said, as a matter of fact, we just finished shooting, and I shared some imagery with him of our first shots of zombie Pamela that's headless. And he was like, that's fucking cool.
That is very cool. That was my favorite part of the whole movie, to be honest with you. I really liked the way you brought her back, and nobody else has tried anything like that. So
it was a risk. I will say that I knew that this was going to fans were either going to love it or they were going to hate it. And we knew that going into it, but it was like, you know what? This has that fun Evil Dead vibe to it. And that's the tone of the film overall. There's a lot of Evil Dead tone to it, which I love. Evil Dead 2, that's one of my favorite horror films of all time. And it was just that if I could get it to work, for the makeup and make that whole thing work, I was like, this can happen. And so I knew this makeup artist, Christina Cordum, who I've known for a while, and I've always wanted to work with her, but she's a professional makeup artist. It's what she does for a living. And she's done a lot of things like Cabin Fever. She worked on Grimm. Just that's what she does. And I reached out to her. I said, hey, look, I'm trying to do this. And she came out. She goes, okay, I get the Evil Dead thing, and she did the makeup for me, and I saw Alex in the makeup and was like, holy shit, this looks fucking cool. we can make this work. So it's, a lot of people, I've seen the comments. They're some of them are like, what the fuck? What is going on? This is a little weird. Zombie Pam coming back, but
film, man, you're not making Citizen Kane here. It's okay to have fun. That's a lot of people miss that. Like, a lot of people really, speaking of Evil Dead, most people just tear Jason Goes to Hell apart, man. But Adam was just trying to make it make sense by making him a deadite, you know, and like,
right.
I mean, the guy, he dies in the lake as a boy. Next thing you know, he's a 30-something-year-old giant man. I mean, how did we get there? You know, and he's just trying to make sense out of it.
Right.
How do you feel about that, about Adam making him a deadite?
I mean, as an Evil Dead fan, I'm like, okay, this works. This is fun. This makes sense. Is there... Can you cross-contaminate in a way that can hurt both franchises? Yeah, but can you do it in a way that enhances each one? I think there's a way to do it where it's not just, yeah, you know, we had the talks of Ash versus Jason versus whatever before, and we know that fell through because, you know, we know the studios don't want to kill any of them. Yeah. So it you know, it doesn't really do any good to even go that route if nobody's winning. But I think there's a way to do it, and that was one of the things that I didn't want to make it, you know, this is a story with the Necronomicon in it, you know, bringing Jason back. My thought is that Pamela had seen something like this, had seen perhaps the Book of the Dead, you know, taking from the Adam Marcus point of view. And if you listen to the film, when you hear Pamela whispering, you know, she's reciting the incantation from the Book of the Dead. Okay. That's why she's able to come back and bring Jason back, is that she's using the resurrection passage.
Yeah, and that makes sense because, like, to like, I've always thought, you know, before meeting Adam and talking to him about this, that Jason dying in the lake and then, like, living in the woods, watching his mom get beheaded, like, not dying but almost dying, and then just surviving in the woods for 20 years. It's the most unbelievable thing in the whole franchise. It can't be. So, like, for him to make something make sense out of it, I was fine with it, and especially more so after hearing him explain it, you know, in person. Yeah. You brought up Ash versus Jason versus Freddy. What were your thoughts on Jason versus Freddy?
I mean, it's probably one of my least favorites out of all the films.
Yeah. To me, it was more of a Nightmare on Elm Street movie than it was a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, and I know that definitely carries through. It's again, we're at that point of nobody's winning in this, right? You know, I didn't like the fact that, you know, I was never a fan of the look of Jason in that one. No. It was just kind of a slow, doofy Frankenstein kind of thing. And one of the things that I thought was kind of, I don't know, pushed me away is when, you know, there's water coming about and Jason's afraid of the water. I mean, Jason goes in the water all the time.
He just couldn't swim. He wasn't afraid of it.
Right. And he's been in the water several times since then. So it's...
I mean, he walked to Manhattan, for Christ's sake.
Right. So I don't know. Those kind of things are like, okay.
What would that? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that's one of the reasons why fan films, I think, work with creating... I mean, you look at any fan film, none of them are alike. None of the stories are alike. The takes of the franchise, where they fit in, they all are very different.
Right.
And the stories, because of the way the franchise is, almost every film is different too. Yeah, they sort of have a continuity, but they don't. Each Jason looks different. Each hockey mask is changed. You know, every hockey mask has changed. So it's like doing a fan film kind of works in a way that people can accept it because of that reason.
It's your artistic license with it, I guess.
Right.
Is there any other horror icons you would like to see Jason interact with?
I mean, honestly, for me, I'm not a big versus guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't really. I don't get excited about that. The Ash thing could work, because it's not a monster versus monster.
Mm-hmm.
It's a character versus. But I would love to see, and I've always thought about this, but I would love to see Corey Feldman come back in a Tommy Jarvis film that, really he has to come back and take Jason down once and for all kind of thing. That would be fun.
That would definitely be fun.
Because the first film I saw in the theater was probably Jason Lives, if I remember correctly. But Corey Feldman back in the day that was such an iconic character. He really, that was what was great about Never Hike Alone too. I think Vinny really, Stevie really nailed the young Tommy. Actually, it was like my hairdresser's daughter is the one who cut his hair.
Yeah, no, that definitely got me hooked as soon as I seen that first teaser when he's sitting by the lake, and I'm like, oh my god, that's pretty much Corey.
Yeah, no, that worked out really well. And little Stevie, he's a character, that kid.
Right on. So where was your film shot?
Basically, in Oregon and Washington. There's a couple different locations that we use. One of them, a lot of the main stuff, like the camp and the barn, that was on my aunt and uncle's property.
Mm-hmm. Right on. All right, let's see. We got some more stuff here. My notes are all over the place. So, with you as a film director, what directors inspired you growing up and getting into this?
I think I started off, I did haunted houses. Had my own haunted house. I wasn't really, I mean, I loved movies. I wouldn't say when I was younger that I had this aspiring thing to be making movies, which I'm kicking myself now because I'm like, why didn't I? This is it all encompassed, because I was in a band. I played music. I did haunted houses. So I was into basically every aspect that encompasses making movies.
Yeah.
So it's like we had when I was in the band, we had, this was back in the 90s. I had one of those old video cameras, the big kind with the VHS thing, like
I used to have one of those.
That Marty McFly used to carry around. And I had this pool in the backyard that we grew up in. And so my bandmates, we'd go in the backyard, and I did this Friday the 13th little film. So this was my first fan film, I guess you could say. And I'm like, it's terrible. It's a terrible story because I feel terrible about what happened. But so we had this Jason Goes to Hell mask, and I put my bass player in this kind of a Michael Myers jumpsuit, and I said, just pull the collar up. And I had this, we put this head over. I said, just hold the head. I said, you'll be fine. I'm gonna chop off your head, and it's gonna be a great effect. We're gonna get this. So I'm doing kung fu moves, and I got this like garden tool, and I swing this around, and I hit him on the top of the head, and it could have been really bad. Thank God it wasn't. But I remember the lump on his head. It was terrible, and I'm laughing hysterically because it's a nervous laughter. Like I almost took a chunk of my buddy's skull out. But yeah, those are fun times. You're coming up, and you start getting into horror effects, and I had my own haunted house, and in a basement, and grew up around that. So it's just all these things kind of built up to, hey, maybe I can make a movie.
Right on, man. Yeah, I heard that you used to do haunted houses. I review haunted houses for a friend of mine that does what is it Halloween. He's gonna kill me. It's yeah, Halloween 365. That's not the name of the site. I've been on a show a bazillion times. I'm gonna have to edit this. Halloween Haunts 365. That's what it is. All right. But yeah, and I review haunts that are in. He's out in New Jersey, and I review haunts that are in the Cleveland area.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, do you still attend haunted houses? Is it still something you're into, or?
Once in a while, if I have time. You know, my daughter's old enough now. I mean, you know, we try to go every once in a while, but a lot of it is just, you know, when these things are going time. And
Yeah.
this year Halloween, I kind of skipped Halloween. I was out of the country for half of the month, but you know, if there's a good one, I'll try to hit it.
Yeah, we had some really good ones in the Cleveland area. That's where I'm from, is Cleveland, Ohio. Speaking of Cleveland, Ohio, the newest Jason is from Northeast Ohio. What are your thoughts on the was it Sweet Revenge, Jason?
Sweet Revenge?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's
You know, it's interesting the path that, you know, the Barsimians are taking with this. It's I think that they're getting a handle on it. I think it's just an interesting start. I mean, essentially, when we watch Sweet Revenge, it's just, well, to me it feels like a fan film.
pretty much.
And I, you know, obviously the controversy with the hockey mask has been from the gate, you know.
Yeah, it's
So I just, again, most people are starving for more content. So they're, you know, a lot of people are just, it can taste like shit, but hey, it's filling. You know? we're gonna eat it. But you know, I don't hate it per se.
yeah.
I'm not necessarily jumping for joy after watching it by any means. There's a lot of things I'm kind of scratching my head on, because when I first watched it, you know, I didn't get the fact that she was dead. To me, I just thought she survived, came out of the water. She was just really cold.
Yeah.
The Eve character.
Yeah.
And so it took me a second round and to hear people talking about it, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
Now that was the thing I liked the most about it, because again, like Adam Marcus explaining Jason with the deadite thing, this is like the lake itself is cursed, and her being drugged under the lake did something to her the same way it did to Jason.
Right.
And it gives a reason for Jason existing after drowning. But for the costume, I'm like, I don't know why these guys didn't just watch some fan films. My line of thought was, I think the Never Hike Alone Jason's one of the coolest looking Jasons there is. And the hawk is amazing looking. It's not the same as everybody else's, and it looks great. I mean, like, why not just do that? Why not just, like, you know, I don't think, would they even have to pay for it?
Well, I think you have to understand is that there's a people behind this that, you know, some of them know what's going on, and some of them are, I think they're just trying to really feel the waters on what the fan base is into and what they're not.
Mm-hmm.
The generic hockey mask thing, you know, it's frustrating, because as a fan, you just want to shake somebody and go, "What the fuck are you doing? You know, what is this?" But at the same time, you kind of look at it as they're getting out there again. Jason's making a comeback in certain elements. This is not what we're going to see in the next film. this is not the iteration of Jason we're going to see. Because I know that the Barsimians are very big fans of part 3, part 4. So I think they're going to go to a more traditional look of Jason, which is great.
Yeah.
As far as who's going to be in charge of how that looks, I don't know. Who knows? It could be Vinny. Vinny might be the guy.
That's what I think they need to do is like get some people like yourself, like Vinny, like people that made really good fan films, and give you guys some money and let you guys do this shit.
Well, and that's one of the things I even told Vinny. I was like, the Sweet Revenge idea. This would have been a perfect catalyst for this. Would have been a great thing for Vinny to do. That's who they should have had do that, in my opinion, because I think it would have came across a lot better. The story was interesting, as far as you got to cram a lot into a little amount of time.
Yeah.
I know that they're going to be releasing some more of that in for Angry Orchard, but it is what it is. Hopefully, Vinny gets his day in the sunlight with it and gets to be a part of an official thing, and because he's worked hard, he deserves it.
Right, and to be most Friday the 13th fans that I know, that's everybody says why not just hire this guy?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It seems like it's just easy, like he knows what he's doing. He's done it with a lot less money than you've paid for other movies, and why not? Right on. You were bringing up music earlier, and I think, in my opinion, music for the Friday the 13th franchise is almost its own character. With Harry Manfredini and everything that he's done. That's why, in my opinion, the worst movie in the franchise is Part 8 because it's the only one that doesn't have any Harry Manfredini. I really dug the music in your film, though, because it seemed like it paid respect to the classic themes and the classic scores of Friday the 13th in the past. Did you do the music for the movie?
Yeah. Myself and my engineer friend, Gabe Johnston, who I've grown up with for a long time. He's an amazing studio engineer and musician, and so him and I, we've written songs together in the past, and he really jumped at the opportunity to help me with doing the Foley and the score and everything for the film. And I think what my take was, we like the Harry Manfredini stuff, but we also wanted to create sort of our own
right. I think you accomplished it.
And I think one of my biggest influences was the way John Carpenter did the first Halloween. Because if you listen to it, there's maybe 6 sections that he wrote, because a lot of it was time and budget. So he had to create, the score relatively quickly. And so he created these, 6 to 7 different iterations that he just placed over the film that worked. And that's kind of how we approached it. We wanted a section that fit, that went over when Pete was around, one for Pamela, one for Jason. So that was just kind of our starting point as far as how we went about it. And it does have a little, I came up with that little kind of that little quick riff on the piano, and I'm like, that's it, that's the theme. And it is a little Nightmare on Elm Street ish. It does have a little bit of that, but I think overall, I don't think I'll do the score for part 2. I think I'm gonna outsource it to somebody else for this one. Maybe have them take elements of the first one and add it in, so it does tie into the first film. But that was a challenge. That was the first time I've ever done something like that. But that being said, I don't know if I did it how you're supposed to do it.
I liked it. I really dug the music into it. Speaking of music too, the end credits. What was the band playing on that?
That was actually my cinematographer and editor, Carl Winnery's band, Ligature Marks.
Yeah, I was really digging that. Definitely good stuff. What type of music did you play when you were in a band?
It was rock. I mean, I've come up in the, again, I lived through the 80s, so I've been through that whole scene, you know. Then I got into the industrial side of things. Like Nine Inch Nails is one of my favorite bands. And
Cleveland, Ohio.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, he lived here for a while, and he's. I mean, I don't think he's actually from here, but some of the other people in the band are, and yeah, Filter, the guy from Filter, had something to do with him, and yeah, he lived in Lakewood, next door to Cleveland.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, definitely the industrial sound. I think we a lot of that came from here.
Yeah, and so that's and that was one of the things that I was because of my band stuff where I use a lot of keyboards and I'm a fan of the piano. That was where I was like, let's see what I can do with this. If it doesn't work, if it's not working, then we can find somebody to do it. But I think Gabe and I pulled it off okay.
Right on. So out of the Friday the 13th franchise, what's a character that you think actually deserved to get whacked the most? Like which character like maybe annoyed you and like you just like were so happy when they got it? Or is there one?
I'm thinking probably the one who deserved it the most was probably Bad News Cruz.
Oh yes,
Cruz in part 7.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. He definitely ranks up there in my least favorite or love to hate characters.
Yeah,
like he's an awesome character. You just love to see.
Oh, he's great actor. I mean, we we love Weekend at Bernie's, right?
Hell yeah. And maybe was there a character that you think maybe didn't deserve it, and like you were you were the saddest to see go in the franchise?
Alice.
And you rectified that.
That's right.
There you go.
Case dismissed.
Is there anyone else in the franchise that you would maybe like to bring back, if possible, in a later film?
I think the Corey Feldman Tommy Jarvis, I think deserves something. I would love to see him come back. I mean, yeah, we got to see him come back in the dream sequence of part 5 in the beginning, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
What would have been even better is if that film carried on from that opening through the rest of it.
Which I think was the original plan, but then he was wasn't he shooting Goonies?
He was shooting Goonies.
So he couldn't do it.
I think he was really sick as well. I think he shot that whole scene on his property and he was really sick.
Mm-hmm.
Or something to that effect. But
right on. So what are some challenges that you faced on the first film that maybe you learned from that going into the second film?
Oh shit. Everything. I mean, there the first one was we spent probably 3.5 years creating Jason Rising. I mean, we went through so much. We went through COVID. We had forest fires that we had to contend with. We had an ice storm blow through and knock all the cabins down. We had to rebuild. So the whole thing was a challenge from the get-go, let alone, that was the first time I ever directed a film, and the original director of the film was going to be my my buddy Robert Blanche, who was one of my good friends, acting coach, mentor. I had worked with him on a short film called Blood and Sugar, and when I decided to do Jason Rising, I asked him, I said, hey, you want to direct this? Let's just make this happen. And at the time he was all for it, and we started working on an iteration of the story and script, and he had developed a lung issue, and over time it got worse and worse, and eventually he had to step away, and he had a lung transplant. It didn't necessarily take like it should have, and a year after the lung transplant, I believe, then he passed away, and that was tough. But I knew Robert would have wanted me to keep going, so that's why I kept going. He was able to see one of the trailers, which I was happy about, and he was he was very, excited about it. And so once we got going, to as far as me directing, I just kind of had to absorb a lot of information on how to direct, how to write, what the story was going to be, because it's changed from when Robert was a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did have a lot of skills already, from the haunt side of things, building sets. So and also I've been an actor, union actor for quite a few years. And so I'd learned quite a few things being on set as an actor, watching the process. Some of my earlier jobs as an actor was working on Art Institute thesis films, and these are up and coming filmmakers, and I'm watching them and I'm taking in how they're doing things and how this guy's directing or that guy's directing. And so I learned quite a bit, on that avenue. But, it's different when you got to do it all yourself and you have to wear all these hats as a producer, a writer. And not only that, but now you're a crowdfunder. So you're having to network on social media, which is a grind. That's a total grind. And even now the environment's changed so much. It's tough. It's tough raising, $100,000 to make a movie, because they're so expensive to make. You're looking at, close to $5,000 a day to film.
Yeah.
And you got to pay your actors, you got to pay your crew, you got to feed them, location things, you got to pay for a U-Haul, all of that shit.
Yeah, people
It
don't
all adds up.
understand how expensive it can be.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, right above your head is a QR code that'll take you right to your crowdfunding site. I
Sweet.
donated earlier today, and
Awesome. Thank you.
I did a contribution earlier, but yeah, I mean, like every little thing just cost and cost and cost, and I mean, and you got really good actors in your film. I thought a lot of times you see these fan films, they're shot with an iPhone, and it's fine. They got a bunch of their friends that have no idea how to act, and they're in the movies. Like I shot a little something for a guy that makes movies here, and you think it's just so easy. You just show up on set and you could just do this stuff, and it's like, dude, I had like a half of a line that he took away from me because I screwed it up 20 freaking times, and because I paid to be in the movie, a little bit of money, and it's hard, man. So to do it with real actors, I mean, imagine they're going to want to work for free like I did, or pay you to be in it. So, yeah, it's got to be very challenging. On that note, like, as far as casting your Jason, how did that come about? Like, because your Jason's really, really good.
Yeah, no, Dan Kyle is a great actor. When I met Dan through a place called the Actors Lab.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the places that I trained at as an actor. And Christina Haddad, who's in the teaser for Jason Rising 2, she was also a part, did some of the voice stuff for Evil Pamela in the first film. And she was the instructor of the class. And so I met Dan through that, and he was also a part of our short film Blood and Sugar. He didn't really have any lines, and it was just, he had this, if you see it, the character is called Ghost. He's a Illuminati bodyguard hitman kind of guy, and he wears this mask, and it's very, influenced by Jason, the way I designed the character. And after doing it, I was like, I'd reached out to Dan. I go, Dan, what if I did a fan film, Friday the 13th, you want to play Jason? And he was like, fuck yeah, I want to play Jason.
Right. I would figure that there'd be a lot of people trying to get that role.
But Dan had the perfect build. He had the perfect size, the perfect build. He was, an actor. And if you watch the first film, you see, Pete Daltrey's dad, the big sheriff with the big mustache.
Yes.
That's Dan.
Okay.
And awesome. That opening scene, the way we made that work was the hand that reaches out through the crate to grab, older, we call him Old Man Daltrey.
Yeah.
The old sheriff, that was Vinny in the crate playing Jason.
Right on.
So we pulled that off, and then when you see the side, the inside of the crate trying to elbow out, that's Dan.
Okay.
So we had to do this in certain cuts and different shots, but that's how we pulled that whole thing off. So you did get to see Vincent Dasani in Jason Rising as Jason.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have like an extensive Jason autograph collection. I don't know if you could. All them Funko Pops are signed by every Jason. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to send you a message and find out how you can get me in contact with your Jason so I could send him a Funko Pop to sign.
Oh, he'd love it.
Yeah, because I do have a couple from fan films up there too. I have every Jason, an autograph from every Jason except Brooker, who's I can't get, I could buy him secondhand, but an 8x10 is like $400. So
yeah,
I need him, Tim Merkovich, which was one of the kid Jasons, Dan Bradley, who refuses to do anything with the movie. He's a guy from Six that got fired. And Sean Cunningham's daughter, who was Jason's voice in part 1. Other than that, I have literally everyone that's ever played Jason, including Vincent.
Nice. No,
most fan films, not all, but most.
The thing about, Dan really, he put his heart and soul into it. He really did. He's more of I would say he's more of a Brooker fan.
Yeah.
But I think he created that nice blend of Brooker and Ted White. I think he's that perfect combination of both. But Dan has that nice Brooker build.
Yeah.
And he's a bodybuilder. He's he takes his craft seriously as an actor. And he's a great dude. I've known Dan for a number of years, and when the day we shot not that long ago for the teaser for Jason Rising 2, he was pretty excited. I remember the text.
He's gonna reprise his role in the new one.
Oh yeah,
that's great. That's awesome. Glad to hear that for sure. That's pretty much all the questions I got for you. Is there anything you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
Just if you want to. If anybody wants to head over to crowdfunder.com/JasonRising2 or scan the code, every cent helps. I mean,
absolutely.
This is a passion project. We're just trying to, when we're swinging for the fences on it. So we've got quite an amazing story in store and some fun surprises that I think Friday the 13th fans are gonna shit their pants on.
Absolutely. I'm going to definitely contribute again. I want to try to get one of those Hawks because I have an extensive Friday the 13th hockey mask collection as well. So I'm going to try to get one of those, but definitely I'm going to put a link whenever I post this somewhere for people to go on and contribute. But hey man, I'm gonna get out of here, and I want to thank you so much for coming on and taking the time, man. It was awesome talking to you. And I can't wait to see what you got in store with Jason Rising 2, man.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Awesome, dude. And we'll talk again, when the movie comes out. And before then, I'm sure, too. But,
I love it.
All right. Love it, man. Have a great day, man.
Talk to you later. All right. Take care. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, shit. There goes the neighborhood.
There goes the neighborhood. There goes the neighborhood.